All right. How's it going? I'm Grant. Who are you? This is the Doodle Review, and it's currently that weird dead zone between Christmas and New Year where I'm really struggling to know what day it is and starting to feel uneasy about all the cheese I'm consuming. And maybe it's the cheese, or maybe I'm just naturally a bit sentimental. But I've been reflecting and looking back at 2024. Specifically, been thinking a lot about the songs that made my year and not content just to reflect. I've mined those memories to present you with another list. These are my songs of the year. Now, I listen to a lot of music day to day to fuel the reviews for this channel, but as much as I get pleasure from that, those albums and those songs aren't always the ones I'm coming back to for fun. They aren't like the songs that I'm going to put on to get me out of bed or to nip down the shops to get milk or to do the washing up to or whatever. So the songs that soundtrack those menial parts of the day tend to go in phases throughout the year. Sometimes they do come from a new album that I've been reviewing. Sometimes they come from a record I've dug into for like research purposes, or sometimes one just like pops into your head. So this is my year in 10 songs from all times, all timelines, 2024 and beyond. First up, let's talk about the Dinosaur Jr. track, You Wonder. This is the closing song on the band's 2021 album, Sweep It to Space. And I'm not a huge Dino fan for no other reason than I just haven't made enough time to get into them. When Sweep It came out, I remember liking it, and I did a little review for back when Doodle Review just existed on Instagram. It didn't blow me away, but it did make my list of records that I should buy if I ever get the chance. And at some point over the last few years, I found a good deal. So the LP is actually in my collection. But to be honest, aside from the compulsory listen upon the vinyl's arrival, I kind of moved on and hadn't really given the album much more thought. That was until Mascis released his solo album this year. And for some background on my review, I dusted off the kind of manky looking album and chucked it on. And when You Wonder came on right at the end, I don't know what it was different about me this time, but it literally, the song stopped me in my tracks. One of just two Lou Barlow songs on the album. You Wonder is a slightly melancholic, slightly uplifting, kind of sloppy but exquisitely constructed song where the three main sections, the verse, the pre-chorus and the chorus, just one up each other in a way that you don't expect. The song starts with this innocuous little riff before dropping to this quiet verse that uses a little shuffle to back Barlow's delicate vocals. It then moves to this pre-chorus that has this dark progression. It lifts us, and lifts us, and then takes us down. When you really look into this song for the first time, you kind of think that's the chorus. It's great, it's cool, it's dark, it's kind of catchy, but then Barlow takes us even higher with this actual chorus that is transcendent. Acoustic guitars lift us up behind the lyrics. My religion is a vision of you humming in my ear. The whole song, but this part in particular, is just like a beautiful sentiment, just given wings by this brilliant sequence of chords. What makes this song really cool is that it could be a kind of sappy but still effective little acoustic number, but there are all of these little riffs and solos, and rather than going to town on them and embellishing them, the production just throws them out, throws them away in such a way that it kind of gives the impression that this track had only been played like maybe once or twice before they put it down. It almost sounds like a demo. The lyrics are kind of obscure. It's obscure enough that you don't really know the full story, but to me, they read like a beautiful tribute to a romantic partner that in some ways has saved the protagonist, likening their profound love to a religion. When this song hits deep, it's like food for your soul type thing. It's great. One of my favorite discoveries of an old song. Okay, a little lighter. Let's talk about the track What Now off the album of the same name by Brittany Howard. This is one of those songs that elevated itself out of the day-to-day rotation when I was prepping my review of the fantastic album. It's such a crunchy little tune, kicked off most notably by these big distorted drums. This song might actually have my favorite drum sound of any song I heard this year. They're blown out and distorted, but the player, and I believe it's Nate Smith, plays with such a deft feel, sometimes hitting light enough so that the distortion doesn't really like kick in or come through, and then other times just really punching it so it's fully there. This heavy rhythm sets the scene for this angry Prince-like funk jam. There are these swelling guitars in the left and the right channels as the vocals get more intense, building to that chorus where a lead guitar that sounds frazzled like the wired heating element of your toaster becomes the hook and mimics the "you're fucking up my energy" sequence of phrases. It ends with this delicate organ riff that rides along the top of all the funk guitars. It's just like a next level production, just a deliciously gritty banger from a fantastic album. Right back at the start of the year, I decided to fill an unexplainable gap in my Pixies knowledge and listen to their album Bossa Nova. What I found was a record that I think represents maybe a low ebb in the band's original run, one where the songs didn't feel quite as refined as they did on Doolittle or how they would again on Trompe Le Monde to follow the year after. With that being said, though, tucked away on the latter half of the LP was this gem, The Happening. At the start, it's a song that just feels like it kind of fell out of them. Lovering sitting on a groove that's pretty chill, pretty mid tempo. You've got Joey picking out a short little palm muted riff with Frank then slamming in with these rough and ragged chords. It all kind of sounds like So What, So Pixies. Not in a bad way, it's just kind of like a song that they could play in their sleep. But then it takes this kind of left turn. It drops out to just drums, and Frank shifts into his upper falsetto. Kim joins him, and the guitar just kind of starts following them. The pitch of the guitar and the vocals are kind of phasing in and out of each other, ebbing and flowing, and it sounds so cool, like kind of like wolves howling at the moon. They do revert back to the kind of standard Pixies vibe, but the next time around, they double down on that eerie ascending high note thing, and the drums kick in behind it, and the song just follows this melody down a whole new track. The surf guitar comes in over the top. Frank starts delivering a delicate spoken word sermon that goes from left to right. On an album I thought was just fine, this stuck out to me and may have actually become one of my favorite ever Pixies tunes. World Is Yours by Nas off Illmatic is a track I come back to time and time and time and time again. But it's actually the song I'll put on any morning I just can't bring myself to get out of bed. Something about those piano chords, originally sampled from Ahmad Jamal's track I Love Music. Something about those chords and that beat just puts me in a great mood. Or if I'm really struggling, it at least elevates me to a level where I'm like good to go. I can't claim to obviously identify with the lifestyle of which Nas describes in his unparalleled lyrics, but the sentiment of this track, the movement, the feeling that the world could be yours for the taking with, enough resilience or wherewithal and determination. On top of that Pete Rock's produced beat, it just picks me up every time. The beat has this awesome early 90s sound. It's got the scratches, the little guitar stabs, sheer perfection. If you're having a bad day, or if you wake up feeling like you just can't be asked, whack this on, grab a cup of coffee, and just look out the window for a few minutes. It'll help. At least it helps me. This year was a big one for me personally for a number of reasons, but one of them that I'm really stoked on was I started interviewing people for this channel. That's something I've always wanted to do or been interested in doing, but honestly been a little nervous about. I get kind of nervous, particularly when it comes to meeting new people, let alone trying to conduct a conversation interesting enough for people wanting to watch it back in the future. So while I feel I'm, maybe still pretty amateur interviewer at best, my guests have been amazing and none more generous and gracious than Joe Cardamone, the lead singer, founding member, and key songwriter of legendary post-punk, death punk, wild man outfit, the Icarus Line. I was a fan of the band long before this year, but in preparation for our conversation, in which we kind of went through pretty much every single major Icarus Line release, I really went deep on the band. According to my end of year streaming stats, I clocked up like thousands of minutes listening to the various Icarus Line releases. But the song I always come back to, that I always have, and just fell even more in love with in 2024, was Spike Island off of Penance Soiree. This track is like a fucking oil slick. It's rad. It starts with pumping bass that goes all the way through, these clean guitar chords dueling in both channels before these acidic leads burn through the calm. The track paints a picture of the Icarus line like they were a pack of feral animals crammed into a drop top, cruising the dusk of Sunset Strip, just looking for their next kill. This year, pretty much any time like I was going out, wearing my leather jacket, I'd put this on and just pretend for a moment, that I was cool enough for this to be like my theme music. It's such a killer tune. Back to 2024, and to be honest, I could have picked any track from Mean Gene's absolute banger of a record blasted, but the one I came back to slightly more than the others was this, Lost My Mind. This track just hurtles at 100 miles an hour, has the line, too many Yankee bombs, and when the vocal harmonies kick in for I died in an accident, it just makes you want to like fucking skull a tinny and punch the air. This whole album rips, but if you need like one song to be convinced, just pick this one. You'll see what I mean. So I am British and I was born in the 90s. So yes, a certain part of this year was dominated by the excitement that the Gallagher brothers have seemingly buried the hatchet and are getting back together. My girlfriend and I were actually in LA visiting some friends when the new news came out. And so one of my favorite memories that was like at that time, it was like midnight or 1 in the morning. We drove down the highway with like Don't Look Back and Out, blasting on the stereo, like singing at the top of our lungs. It was fun. I'm very lucky to have a ticket for next year. And in the meantime, I was reminded that I've not actually done like an Oasis album ranking. So I've spent the last few months re-familiarizing myself with the catalog. When I got to Be Here Now, I was reminded of my all-time favorite tracks from the Mancunians, and that is My Big Mouth. Similar to Spike Island, anytime this year I wanted to like cosplay, like I had any sort of swagger about me, I'd have to get this one on. It's Oasis at their most brash, arrogant, and maybe even their most aggressive. The riff or chord progression is pretty basic. It's kind of dumb and almost shouldn't be able to sustain the full 5 minutes or however long it is. I mean, it's a Be Here Now track, remember, so it's about twice as long as it reasonably should be. But however basic its main progression is, Noel casts his magic on a chorus that just elevates the songs to another level. And Liam is singing the excellent line, I'll be put on my shoes while I'm walking slowly down the Hall of Fame. That's just amazing. This year, I was lucky enough to go see Alkaline Trio at Kentish Town Forum with a few of my mates. It's not the first time I've seen the band, but despite being a repeat viewer, I'd actually not gone that deep on the trio's discography and decided to bone up before the show with their classic From Here to Infirmary. Hearing this album is one of those moments where you just get the hype straight away. Every song is killer, and the whole album crackles with a magic that I don't feel is something any band can ever really achieve like on purpose. It just happens sometimes. I could actually choose any of the songs here, but at the risk of including an obvious choice like Stupid Kid, Private Eye, or Armageddon, I'll go with You're Dead, one of the more emo leaning tracks in the set. This one takes a frustrated chord progression riff thing and builds to such a gut punch of a chorus of like, when I found out I'd never see you again. I love all of the little bass touches from Dan Andriano, that perfectly placed bing, filling those gaps in the verses. So idiosyncratic, so extra, but just magical. What an album. And they blew the roof off the forum too. Like I mentioned in my top 50 albums of the year video, the meme around the Brat album was this close to backfiring. In my opinion, a lesser album truly would have crumbled under the hubris of this whole phenomenon. I read so many think pieces about the album, it almost made me sick, and so many of them likening the chaotic, unapologetic personality of the Charlie XCX brand as punk. A label I'm not sure you can give to something this capitalist in nature, but if there's any aspect to this record I'm happy to align with punk as a label, is this song. Underneath the clanging club synths, sympathy is a knife, is a rager. If it hasn't happened already, I can definitely hear a version from a punk band or something. Like that bass just hits hard, and against the completely stark and honest vocals that somehow sound raw even through layers of auto tune, it's just dying for someone to do a scream version against some horrendously overdriven bass guitar with double kicks all over it. This song has become a firm favorite and one I've honestly found myself listening to on repeat many times over the course of the year. All right, rounding out the list is a track from the incredible deluxe reissue of Mark Lanigan's classic Bubblegum record. Earlier this year, I took it upon myself to try and piece together a making of the record, and in that time, found myself absolutely luxuriating in all of the additional material we as fans were treated to in the latest box sets. This is a song I had a copy of years ago in the days of like file sharing through the Records forum, but in the move over to streaming, sadly lost. Now it's been preserved forever on an official release. Josephine is a song from the Bubblegum sessions that brings together many of the Queen's gang for what would have been one of the most straightforward rock tracks, possibly even hits on the album had it actually been included. I've always thought the track sounds like it was abandoned before completion because maybe because it does sound so standard. You know, it's a straight up rock track with an accessible chorus hook. And I kind of agree with the decision to leave it off the final record, but it's too much of a banger not to have available in some form. And aside from Lanigan's central vocal, which is typically impeccable, there's a slight underbaked quality to the recording. Like everything in the track is really just being assembled in rough form to get a lay of the song. And as a result, there's a feel to the cut that I think imbues the otherwise simplistic rock song with some extra dynamics that are needed. This was another that I've really found myself putting on repeat for a big portion of the year. And if you're a Lanigan fan or if you're a fan of Songs for the Deaf era Queens of the Stone Age, you definitely should give it a go if you haven't heard it. All right, that's enough nostalgia. Time to knock it on the head. Let me know in the comments what songs, new or old, you were banging this year. Check out all my top albums of the year list linked in the description, as well as the Spotify playlist I've knocked up for you all. Subscribe as well, obviously. All right, cheers, mate. Take care. Mind how you go. Bye.